ASG welcomes you to another edition of the ASG Cloud Factory video tutorial. In this episode, we're going to introduce the overall architect, the installation requirements, as well as the basic install of the Cloud Factory 8.1 admin console. Installation of Cloud Factory 8.1 Architecture and Requirements. This video tutorial is made up of 3 modules. In the first module, we will provide you with an overview of Cloud Factory 8.1 Suite and all its components and its capabilities. The second module describes the requirements for the installation of Cloud Factory 8.1 Admin Console. And in the third module, we will demonstrate the installation of Cloud Factory 8.1 Admin Console. This stack diagram illustrates ASG's Cloud Factory version 8.1. Let's start at the bottom section and work our way up. Deployment and Lifecycle Management, represented by ASG Cloud Shaper, followed by the middleware layer for self-services with Cloud Robot, our advanced tool for service, and next on top, the layer for workspace and self-service store. The components are ASG's Cloud Cockpit and the newly featured ASG Cloud Store. And sitting on top of everything is ASG's Cloud Factory Admin Console. It's an important tool to control and to configure the components. This slide illustrates Cloud Factory architectural makeup. The following are mandatory requirements: Microsoft Windows Active Directory, configured DNS with reverse lookup and DHCP. If Cloud Shaper is used, especially when planning to deploy physical server incidences, the Microsoft Deployment Service role are needed on the server. An additional server with Microsoft SQL is needed to host the Cloud Factory database. The Cloud Factory Admin Console reads and writes from and to this database directly. Also, Cloud Cockpit, Cloud Robot, Cloud Store, Cloud Shaper can all be installed on one additional server instance. Let's start with Cloud Cockpit. Cloud Cockpit has its own SQL database, which can be hosted on the SQL Server instance with Cloud Factory database. Cloud Cockpit web front end relies on Microsoft Internet Information Server with the ASP.NET extension, and Cloud Cockpit can deliver applications from the Microsoft Remote Desktop Services. Cloud Shaper does not have its own database, but uses Cloud Factory database just like the admin console. A Cloud Shaper specific requirement is a file share in which the Cloud Shaper application installation package can be stored and maintained. The Cloud Store in Cloud Robot uses Mongo database as its database. The Mongo database can either be installed on Microsoft SQL Server or any other server instances. Most of ASG's Cloud Factory components utilize the Cloud Factory Admin Console, more specifically Cloud Cockpit and Cloud Shaper. The first step of implementation is the installation of the Cloud Factory Admin Console. Cloud Factory Admin Console relies on functioning Microsoft Active Directory for user authentication and a Microsoft SQL database to store all configuration values and parameters. The Admin Console can also be deployed on several server instances as well as on end-user devices with a Microsoft XP 7, 8, or 8.1. Basic requirements for ASG's Cloud Factory 8.1 Admin Console and Database Server. The following operation systems are recommended and reflect best practices: Windows 7 64-bit or Windows 8.1 64-bit for the admin console on an end-user device with Microsoft.NET Framework 2.0 or Microsoft.NET Framework 3.0 or later. And for Cloud Factory Database Server, we recommend Windows 2008 R2 or Windows 2012 R2 with Microsoft.NET Framework 2.0 or Microsoft.NET Framework 3.0 or later. as well as Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 or Microsoft SQL Server 2012. Configure the SQL Server for CloudFactory database. Basic requirements. Window requirements are CloudFactory and its administrative console require a configured Active Directory for authentication. In addition, a DNS with reverse lookup for name resolution is required. Microsoft SQL database requirements are the SQL Server must be enabled to operate the so-called mixed mode authentication mode. Please note that the SQL Server incidents are case sensitive and SQL collections are not always supported. Please ensure that SQL over TCP is enabled. Let's look at a live installation of the CloudFactory 8.1 Admin Console. Start the setup. Now this can be done on any end-user device. The installation package will be unpackaged. Select English as the language. Accept the license agreement. Now confirm that the installation is available to all users of the end-user device. Accept the default installation path. Now the installation starts. Now confirmation will pop up and confirm that the CloudFactory Admin Console has been successfully installed. Select Next and confirm the execution of the console upon the completion of the installation. And a warning will display that no database was found. Okay, now you want to start the database connection wizard by clicking on OK. Create a connection to the database on the existing database server and use the evaluation license. Click on OK. Now enter the database server name and the name of the SQL Server instance in the next dialog. Now use the integrated Windows authentication. Okay, now select and create new database. On the next dialog, the name of the CloudFactory environment is defined. In this instance, accept the default value. Now enter the username of the database admin user. Enter the password. Confirm the password. Now you want to check and make sure it's left checked is use this connection for all users of this computer. Click on Next. And the connection to the database server will be established. And the database for the CloudFactory will be created and the connection to the database server will be established, and the database for the CloudFactory will be created and initialized. This window informs us about the process and the successful execution of the respective steps. As an evaluation license being used, click on Continue Testing. This will then start the admin console. The sections, templates, software library, infrastructure, Cloud Cockpit grants us the access to configuration of Cloud Shaper and to Cloud Cockpit.